Hello and welcome to episode number 3. Today we're going to be talking about the level of commitment. Now, the reason we're going to go through each one of these sections piece by piece is because these are critical factors in determining how much your online campaign is going to cost you and how long it's going to take for you to be successful. So it's really critical that we kind of break these down into pieces. Now, a little bit of house cleaning. If you didn't watch episode 1 or 2, you need to go back and watch those episodes and fill out the sheets that are in the notes section. 100% free, download them, do the homework, understand where you're at before you get into this one. It's just going to help you because what I'm trying to do is have this snowball effect in my education of small business. And that is, grab the little part and then let's start rolling it and it's going to gain more and more momentum. If you try to jump into number 3 or you try to jump ahead, or just target certain pieces, which is kind of human nature. But if you're going to do that, then you're going to miss some very important parts. And my goal is to educate you so that you won't be a victim to the next good sales pitch. So the first thing I want to do to introduce this new section is I want to talk to you about what the internet is really like versus what you're told it's like. Now, a lot of people have in their mind that the internet is this very organized place where someone goes and they search for something and then they go out and they see a nice listing of it and then from there they make a decision, they make a purchase and everything is great and you can succeed on the internet just so long as you happen to hit that magic point that other businesses have hit to where they have the success level. Now, I want to give you a different picture of the internet. I want you to imagine a very crowded street full of street vendors. And I want you to imagine that you're on that street and you're selling what you're trying to offer. And I want you to imagine that everybody on that street is selling the exact same service or product you're trying to offer. Now, the customers are walking down the street. And just imagine everybody trying to get their attention. I mean, you got those little weird pop-up balloons yelling at people, telling them to come here. You've got people, trying to draw people's attention with low cost or free or no money down. And then you've got other people who are selling it at a reasonable price and some people who are selling it at this. And everybody's trying to get these people's attention as they're walking down the street. Now, that's where you are when you're on the internet and you're competing. It's not this organized, let's all play real nice and it's all legitimate and everybody's operating ethically and honestly and everything is good. No way. It is everybody trying to use every psychological advantage that they can use to get those people to consider them for whatever they're selling. It's sad, but it's true. And so this is what you're going to be competing against. So you need to really soak that in and understand that's what it is when you're competing on the internet. And it doesn't matter if it's your hometown. It doesn't matter if it's a state, a city, national, international. It just means the waters get muddier and muddier the bigger it gets. Now, the other thing about the internet is you also have to consider that there are companies out there that people intuitively trust and already have a relationship with. For example, Amazon. Who doesn't know Amazon, right? I mean, if I'm going to buy something, I'm the first one to jump over to Amazon. Why? Well, my points. I can use my credit card points. I can use a credit card. I can get refunds easy. I know I can trust them. I know they're safe. I know they're secure. And so Amazon is a beast because they built this reputation and they have a pretty darn good system, right? So you're competing. If you're competing with products that are on Amazon, you're competing against Amazon. And with the way that shipping and everything is today, it doesn't matter if they're shipping from 2 or 3 states over. Unless there's just this need for this instant gratification, then, they're going to win out a lot of times. So you need to consider the fact that there are those companies, and then consider the fact that it's a very noisy business, very noisy, and you've got to stand out. So part of this, in order to stand out, relates to a few factors. And I've got this sheet. And at first I was going to try to cover this whole sheet in one video. It's not going to happen. I'm going to break them down into pieces. Reason being is you've really got to understand it. And within each one of these little bars, there's levels of complexity within each section. So the first one we're going to cover is the level of commitment. So the level of commitment, it's not the same thing for every company, everywhere, all the time. It's just not. And so what your goal is when you're working through this sheet is you want to be in the green side of things. The green means you're in a place where it's going to be easy for people to make a decision and commit to you. The more places you check off on the red side, the harder it's going to be for someone. The more we do on the green side, the easier it's going to be. So I think this will make sense more as we go through things. So the level of commitment. So let's talk about my hat here. I am a hat, man, I am so picky about my hats. I drive my wife nuts. I've got a whole closet full of hats that I do not wear because I look at them online, I buy them, and I just don't go through the hassle of shipping them back. But they're just sitting in my closet, and I think I'll use them when I'm working in the yard or something like that. But typically I don't. But the idea with the hat is my perception of value on a hat is $15. Now, the hat that I'm wearing is $30. Now, I didn't want to spend $30 for a hat. And so when I first found this hat, it was in Duluth. When I first found this hat, I was thinking, man, I like a lot about it, but I just don't know if I want to spend that much on it. So I've already got hats I've spent $15 on. I got a whole stack of them. So I probably ran through $150 in hats, and I'm sitting here muddling in my mind about the price point of $28. Now I didn't like the color of the hat, but I liked this style and I liked everything associated with the hat, right? So I started going through other places and I started doing more research. Now, because I've already had a relationship with this company, I ended up going back and buying this hat after doing more homework. But if the price point was at $15 from the same company, I would have had a no-brainer decision. Now, things that bounced around in my head as I was doing research was this hat costs more, but it's probably better quality than the other hats. And then I found out that to be true, at least from my research. Then I started looking at other factors, like the way the stitching is and things like that. And all those things combined for me to go back and buy the hat. Now, once I bought it, I went back and bought another one. I wanted to have a backup, so now I have two hats. And so that's kind of how that worked. Now, so keep in mind, my perception of value was $15. I had a blip in the road from making the purchase. And that blip in the road caused me to do more research and then making a decision to go back to make the purchase once I had done my research. So let's kind of think through this a little bit. First of all, let's think about what's known as a sales cycle. Now, if it was $15 and it was on Amazon and it looked exactly like what I wanted, my timeline for making the purchase, my sales cycle, would have been instant. I would have made the purchase. I would have had it shipped right to me, no questions. Now, because there was a blip of $28, right? So then what I did, and I realize you're probably seeing this backwards looking at me, but you get the point. But with $28, now I had to stop, think, do research, and then come back to make the purchase. So my sales cycle in buying this hat was 2 or 3 days versus instant. Now, because I had a relationship with the company, I've already made a purchase and I know I could trust them, I remembered them. And so I ultimately went back. Now, if it was a company that I did not have a previous relationship with and they failed maybe my personal idea of if they're safe and secure and blah, 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 if they didn't pass all those tests, I may have never went back, right? And so the idea is, what could you do if you're that company? And let's say you were the company selling the $28 hat, and I didn't have that relationship with you. You may have lost me forever if you couldn't have made some way of keeping in touch with me. 1 second. And no, I'm not sponsored by McDonald's. Well, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? So, anyway, when you're looking at this level of commitment, you need to kind of keep in mind that what you need to be able to do is, if you're offering a product and you're not recognized by your target demographic, your target customer, you need to lower that initial commitment. And if it's more instant, then, sure, the home run's great, but likely that's not going to be the case if the commitment level's higher. So what do I mean by lowering the commitment? Do I mean lowering the cost of the hat? Well, that could be one choice, but you know what? You might not be able to. Maybe that's not the answer. So obviously you want to do a little bit of research and look around online for whatever you're offering and then see where the price point's at. And then you need to see if you can even be competitive. And then if you can, then you can make the determination about the cost of your product. But let's say you cannot decrease the cost of your product. Now, there's always this thing online where people go, "Oh, it's not about the cost." I've heard a lot of people say that. Well, that's not always true. In some cases it is. Excuse me. So, in this particular case, what you'd want to do is lower the commitment. And so instead of selling the product, what you may want to do is collect their email addresses. Maybe give them special offers, discounts that you can email to them. I want to pause for 1 sec because I need to clear my throat. I apologize. Thank you. I don't do this kind of talking normally. So what you want to do is lower the commitment. Offer them a discount. Offer them a means to where you can stay in front of that customer during that sales cycle if they don't have that relationship with you. Now, even getting an email address from a new prospect today is a pretty high level commitment in a lot of people's minds. Like, for example, when I see that pop up, people become very skeptical, where you see a pop up, "Give us your email address and we'll do this." And you're like, I don't know. I just don't know if I want to do that. And for me, now again, there's all flavors of ice cream. There's a lot of people who just don't care. They'd rather not be bothered. So what you got to do is you have to make that enticing. You have to make it very enticing, almost crazy enticing to get their email address. And it's harder and harder to get that commitment level from people. So what you have to do is you have to invest in collateral or concepts or promotions and presenting those promotions in an attractive way to people to get them to give you their email address. And so immediately, in processing what I'm trying to tell you, you can see that, going out and getting a Wix program or putting up a Facebook page or whatever, you can already start to see why these things fail and fail very consistently. It's because they can't talk about this, because you can't really bottle what I'm trying to tell you here. You just have to work through with a professional. So your level of commitment. Higher price means you're going to be more in the red zone. It means you're going to have a longer sales cycle. It means it's going to take a longer time for people to make that decision. And if you can't capture their information when they get to your website and there's a longer sales cycle and they don't know you, you're likely to lose them. Now, if you can make a point of contact with them, then they're likely to come back to you if their research shows that your product or service is the best one to make or get. So this is the challenge here. So you got to think real carefully about that whole level of commitment and what they get in return. You can't just do the sign up for our newsletter. You can't get away with that anymore. You've got to tell them exactly what they're getting and why they're getting it and why it's important. If your product is something that is complicated and there's no way around it, then maybe what you want to do is have a white paper, the 7 things you must know about our product before making a decision anywhere, any place. And then collect their email address and then send them your information. And then what you could do is you could send them a discount a day or so later, a special offer or something like that. And then what you can do is just try to gain that momentum, stay in front of them as they're making their decision and their research. So, level of commitment, what they get in return, you need to carefully process that. Now, once you've processed it, I want you to put it a number. I want you to think in your head, how easy is that? And if it's a very easy proposition, very easy commitment, they have a high value for the commitment, then go lower. If it's a more complex, harder offer, harder sell, then put it high. Okay, now, the last thing I want to share with you in this section is an analogy that I think is it's very real to what it is. And I hate giving analogies because a lot of times they just break down. But in this case, I think it's relevant. So imagine that a new prospect is like a person that you're taking out, that you're attracted to. Now, making the purchase for whatever you're trying to offer is marriage. And so it's literally going out on the first date and saying, hey, you want to marry me? I'm sure there's those Vegas moments where somebody goes in and says, yeah, heck yeah, let's do it and get married today, right? But most of the time, there's not, right? You want to get to know them, they want to get to know you, and now there's this process of dating and get to knowing each other and writing each other and emailing each other and understanding each other and see what movies you like. And then at some point, there's that marriage, right? So when you're looking at what you're trying to do here, if your product is more complicated and requires a commitment, and you've got to build that relationship where they begin to trust you, right? Think of the relationship, the courting period, as the sales cycle. Think of the dates, the flowers, the emails, and all of those things that you would do in that dating process. Think of those as the points in which you touch those people, or touch your customers. You email them offers, you email them educational material, you stay in front of them, you do these things. You say, hey, I'm still here. If you need to know anything, let me know. Hey, check out what we're doing. We got this new thing on our website we're doing. We got the special offer. Stay in front of them, because those touches over that time is going to help them during that decision-making process. Now, ultimately, the end of the sales cycle is the marriage, i.e. the purchase of the product. Now, shorter sales cycle, shorter relationship, easier product, easy to understand. So that's kind of where I want to leave this today. And I really want you to process this whole section. And I really want you to think through this whole level of commitment. And I want you to come up with something to where you're in the green section. And so don't half-heartedly do this. And when you try it, I want you to look at your competitors, is what you're offering as far as the level of commitment and how to attract people to give you whatever they need to give you. Lower level of commitment in terms of email addresses. Just figure out, if you're doing a good job with it in comparison to your competitors in your area. And then also check out your cost. And we're going to get into reputation and some of that other stuff down the road. But this is the next place you need to be. So anyway, I really appreciate you listening today, and please make sure to subscribe. I mean, we've had some success on the first 2 episodes. Episode 1, we got, I think at the time I was loading this one around, a little over 1,000 people, and we had about 30 or 40 likes, and we got 1 unlike. Now again, if you're not going to like the video for whatever reason, please make sure to state the reason in the comments section. The reason I want this is I want to educate businesses. And if I'm not saying something that's accurate, if I'm not saying something that's good, then tell me what I'm missing. And then what I'll do is I'll talk about that. I got colleagues all over the country that I work with. And I'll take your information into consideration, and then we need to bring it up and we need to discuss it. Now, it's got to be a relevant, good comment. I mean, I have no doubt the people who are using Wix and designers who are selling things and other stuff, they're probably not going to like what I'm telling you, because it's just something that's going to ruin the easy sell that they do in what they're doing. And I can't help that. I have no doubt I'm going to get those. But if I'm missing something, please mark it negative. Mark it right away, but then leave a comment as to why you're doing it. And we did get the 1 negative comment as of the time of this posting. Then video 2, we jumped up to about 3,000 views. So I thought that was kind of neat. I mean, essentially this is a new channel. I mean, we're really busy in what we do. And I also am putting a bumper at the beginning of this video. For those of you who don't know, a bumper is a little introduction. And I'm curious what you think about that. And if you feel like leaving me a comment and telling me it's a bad intro or a good intro or whatever, feel free to let me know what you think. And I really do appreciate you listening today, and thank you for your time. Up next, we are going to cover the complexity in understanding your product. So we're going to get into that, and then et cetera, is get on the page. I am not going to link this document up until the very end of all these sections, because I don't want you working too far ahead without having an understanding as to what I'm trying to get. Because as you saw in the level of commitment, there's a thought process within the thought process that you need to consider when you're creating what you need to create to be successful. So thank you again for listening. I really do appreciate it. And until next time.